Oh my God, I haven't sailed for so long. I'd almost forgotten what a cup of tea tastes like on the boat, what it smells like to make it, and all those other sensations that go around with the simple things on the boat. But it's nice to refresh your memory. The water's almost stopped outside, the flood's nearly finished, and when the flood's finished, we'll go out with the ebb. It seems like so long since we've had such a nice day that no one can wait to get out. I'm quite sure there's going to be a lot of boats out today. Look at the speed of me, I'm that excited to get out. I've dropped my line, I'm letting my dinghy go and I'm away all in seconds and my foresail's out. Yeah, well, as you guessed, I'm not really going that fast. I am that excited though. The engine's idling and it's in neutral, it's not actually on. The foresail which I pulled out is actually doing the job. There's not a lot of wind, the mainsail's up as well, but we're pulling ourselves towards the little bit of wind that's there. Alright, and don't forget, it's just started to ebb, so we've got nothing to fight except a little bit of a breeze. That being a full 7 knots of breeze, and we're probably making 1 or 2 of them. RJ's got his little lad with him, giving you a wave there. Little Squashy. His name's Oshan, but we call him Squashy because he's cuddly. Both of us sailing out the Conway River now, and it's really nice to sail out of a river. I always think of it from the other way round. There's people walking along the riverbanks having a nice day, and it's absolutely lovely, even for me, when I'm walking along the riverbanks, to see a boat sailing down the river. Sailing down the river's just as good if you're not on the banks as well. Little bit of boat dodging, and just look at the weather we've got. It's fantastic. First real good day of the year to sail out of Conway. Gotta tell you, it's a cracking buzz, and I'm glad I made the decision to get out today. I feel a little bit like a chicken with no head. I keep popping round and looking this way and looking that way and trying to swing the camera around at the same time so you can have a nice view of what's going on around me. Which is actually not a lot at this particular moment in time because the air's gone very, very light. But I've got about a knot of current taking me out anyway, and there's the last boat, so nearly out. 6 knots we've got. We're making 2.7 over the ground. So the sails must be responsible for some of it. Getting chased down the river by the motorboats. The sound of the bow breaking water like music to my ears. A little bit of a flutter in that sail there. It's hardly got any wind in it at all, not enough to carry its own body. The main's sitting a little bit better, but these are both brand new sails to me for this season, so I've got to see how they get on when they stretch themselves out and yawned a bit. As we round a perch, strangely enough, we seem to be getting a little tiny bit more wind, but it seems to have followed us round, so what was a bit of an easterly is now a bit of a northerly, which is pretty damn good. Now, wouldn't it just be a swell day if the wind followed us round everywhere we went to today? Yeah, sailed pretty good. Keeping in touch with Jay on the VHF. Going to cut across the banks and we're going to go to Puffin.
Cooper Depot, Belfast Coast Guard, Roger, you attached a person in the water at the Cooper Harbour Pontoon. 1 person in the water, elderly male. Crew list when you can over.
That's pretty good reception, isn't it? Kirkcudbright Harbour from here, the other side of the Irish Sea. Well, I hope they get the person out the water. Right, we're all set for Puffin Island. I'm going round Puffin Island and down the strait, and where we get to then, I don't know. But isn't it lovely? Take a look outside.
Belfast Coast Guard, message from the first informant. The casualty is hanging on to the back of a blue boat over.
Oh dear, he's hanging on the back of a boat. He needs sorting out quickly, doesn't he? Fingers crossed for him. I think Jay's looking very chilled now, not really paying attention to what he's doing. But then he wouldn't be if I'm just about to crawl past him. He says hi, I say hi. Because his boat's a little bit lighter than Swallow, if the air stops, so does he, and my weight keeps me going a little bit better. He hates that. Well, I think I'll keep the correct heading on. I got 3.9 over the ground. Oh, would you look at that, my display's coming apart at the seams. I've got lines in it. Oh, that's got a short-lived life to go. I've got 8 knots up the chuff and I'm making 4, so that's about 12. And my brother, well, he's turned a little bit more into the wind to hopefully get a little bit more out of the wind. Tactics, I think. There's a little bit of a party going on. With me fenders at the back of the boat. There's plenty of them, they're all just hanging round. I know what they're waiting for. They're waiting for a latte, but that one's mine. Well, as first sails go, I think this one's turning out to be a bit of a cracker. I know we're only running at the moment, wind on the quarter, and there's not a lot of wind. And I haven't cleaned the bottom of the boat for so long that I can't remember when it was. She seems to be slipping along absolutely beautifully. And it'll turn out to be a whopping good day to get some creases out of them sails. I wonder what kind of speeds we're making through the water. 5.3 over the ground. We've probably got a knot of current with us, so we're looking at about 4.5 knots through the water. There's 10 knots of wind with 4.5, about 14 knots of wind. Well, I'll take that for my first sail, thank you very much. I think we've all worked out by now that Swallow's nothing but dependable. She certainly isn't a high-speed boat, that's for sure. Getting up to 5 knots can often be a bit of a push for her. Well, we really seem to be picking it up now, the pace. We've still got our knot over the ground throwing in, so we're getting around the 5 knots mark and we're heading there on Puffin Island. And as you can see, Tarka's alongside us more or less. There he is there. Let's zoom in on him and see what he looks like. He looks like he's going as good as we are. Just getting into the confused waters bit in front of Puffin Island now. And the confused waters is because there's 3 lots of tide. All start to hit each other. It almost looks like there's plenty of wind on the water here, but it's not. It's the fact that the water and the wind all change directions. Passing the end of Puffin Island, you can almost see the tides meeting each other in certain points, just there. And on one side of it it's completely calm, and on the other side of it it's all ruffled. Well, get round the corner, that's the calm side, and we'll be there in a minute. As Tarka's a little bit wider than us at the moment, we'll cut inside him and hopefully put a gap in between him and us, with us ahead, hopefully. Swallow and me are just about to come out of the bumpy bit and into the smooth bit. There you go, there's the edge just there, that little white bit on the water, and then we'll be away. As we round the top, the north side of Puffin Island to head into the straits, we still seem to have a usable wind all the way, which is really good because we need a little bit to shove us through this sound. Oh, and Tarka seems to be going a little bit wide on me now. The wind feels quite light just here, just before we enter into the sound. And the tide's obviously not moving very quickly. But soon as we get in there, it will be wind over tide. Not a lot, but enough. I feel when I get to this first green can that I've passed the worst of any of the waters are going to be, especially on a really windy day. Today's not a really windy day. In fact, it's very light airs. I've taken to putting the pole out to keeping things calm and controlled, because otherwise the foresail is just riffling from one side to the other, and that drives you nuts after a bit. And it's nice to see Tarka is now well and truly behind us and sitting in our wake. Well, I've just got to keep my fingers crossed now that we find the best and the cleanest air and I can stay ahead. And as you see, I'm going to grab every single bit I can get me wings on while I'm flying. We've decided to stop somewhere ahead, so when I feel the wind die down, I think that'll be the ideal opportunity to say this'll do, especially if I'm still in front. The Puffin Island sightseeing boat goes out from Beaumaris to Puffin Island half a dozen times a day. Always worth a trip out while you're there. It's getting a bit light here. Keeps changing direction. This won't help. As I run down the straits, the voyage goes one by one until I get to the bottom corner where I'm going to turn up towards Beaumaris. And as you can see by the buoy, there's plenty of tide to push and not a lot of wind to push it with, but just enough to give you 1.5 knots over the ground.
So you're going to Beaumaris then?
Well, we worm our way past Beaumaris and we find a little bit more current heading us when we get to Gallows Point. And the wind is definitely dying down a bit, so I'm thinking to myself, as soon as I get round Gallows Point now, I'm going to have to find somewhere to pick up a buoy. Otherwise, I can see myself starting to sail backwards, and that's no fun. Well, there's lots of lovely places over there to row ashore, but I don't see any buoys that I can pick up. And I don't like dropping an anchor over there, because it's the type of place it gets stuck on an old chain or a rock and you end up leaving it there on a fender for another day. Where's Uncle Jay? There he is, in the distance. I think we'll zoom him in and make him look a little bit closer. There you go, still rounding Gallows Point. There's a few nice beachy bits along the shoreline. If you had a small sailing dinghy, you could spend the night there, ground yourself off for the night, and the tide can go out, come back in the morning, lift you up, and away you go again. Time to put the donkey on and get the sails away. Don't you just love roller failing? I can hear the die-hard Hank-on people saying things like, lazy devil, it'll never pull like a proper sail. But that were quick, it won 30 seconds and it's away. This is the tricky bit now. We've got a little bit of wind pushing us from behind and we're going into the current. And we've got to pace ourselves to pick up the buoy and make sure that we stop on it and don't start going backwards too quickly. So let's run it over a little bit just before we make our way up to the bow. Here goes. Come here, you little devil. Got ya. I tell you what, that's a lot harder on a breezy day. It's a bit of a rigmarole sorting the rest of this, I'll tell you. This bit's got to come in here, and that bit's got to go through there, and that bit's got to go round there, and that bit's got to come back across there, and that bit, well, that's got to go sort of round there, and that bit needs to come back through there, and then that bit has to go round there and tie off over there. Oh, and that bit then is done. Something like that. Don't know how that happened, but what happened to my little pinkies? They're covered in rust. I'm gonna have to wash them little devils down. Can't be doing with rusty hands. You'd end up with rusty handprints all over the place. So you've got to go back without touching anything at all until you've got them under the tap. Look at that. Looks like tea coming off my hands, just as well as a teacup in there. And I've just missed Jay picking up a mooring on the inside of me and between me and the shore. Well, I don't think he's going to have long there. Looks a bit close to the beach to me, because we've got a lot of water to disappear just yet. Well, I haven't run the engine all day except for 2 minutes when I started up, so I thought, well, I'll give it 5 minutes now, and at least that way I'll have 5 minutes worth of hot water in the tank. And it's much nicer to wash your hands with a bit of warm water than there is cold water. It's a lovely, lovely looking day out, but it is a little bit chilly, I'll tell you. It's just the beginning of the season, the very, very beginning of the season. In fact, it's Easter weekend, and Easter come early. Oh, Jay's done some calculations and decided that he's going to be in shallow water. So he's gone on the outside of me and picking one up out there by the looks of it. Is he going to get it first time? He looks like he's bob on. Oh, he's found it. Well, that was easy. Far too easy. Well, we had a cracking night's sleep, and the next day, well, that'll be part 2 of this video coming up in a little bit.